Колеги, зараз
Dear colleagues, now we'll start the briefing of Colonel Andriy Lysenko, who is a spokesperson for Information Analytical Center of NSDEC. Добрый день. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We will begin our briefing. Forces of ATO are concentrated on actions and on isolation of territory that is under the control of terrorists, and they put into the ring those mercenaries from Russia around Astakhanov, and Luhansk. It becomes narrow, despite all the efforts of bandits to get out of the ring. There's engineering work and on checkpoints of Ukrainian armed forces and units of ATO with artillery strikes should destroyed two ground systems of terrorists and their crews. During the day, forces of ATO 1222 had clashes, combat clashes with terrorists near Orlova Ivanivka, Kumachova, Shume, Novoivanovka, Mariivka, Krasny Yar, Stukalova Balka, Severmohyla, and Airport Lugansk. There are strikes, artillery and motor strikes from Russian Federation. Yesterday, starting at 1:55 during 1 hour, they were making strikes against airborne units near Dyakova. One more strike happened at night. Ukrainian airborne units under the crossfire preserved all their positions near Krasnotalivka, Luhansk region. After intelligence of a drone over positions of Ukrainian border guards and military men of Russian Federation for 4 hours, they were making strikes on the border guards service from Italy and mortars, and there was fighting from Novorusky and Ushakovka. Those were their positions. Near the border, military men of Russian Federation with artillery and mortars, they made strikes against ATO forces near Stepanivka and Rusivka, border crossing point Uspenka, and also border guards in village Vasilievka. Also from RAD system placed on Russia, they was making strikes against on border crossing point Dyakovka and village Petropolka. And because of that, representative of Pentagon Admiral John Kirby told that they have facts, evidence that Russia provides ammunition to hit mercenaries, and also the concern of concentration of Russian forces on the Russian-Ukrainian border. As to the situation in the area of the conflict, we received the information from international mission on protection of investigation group around MH17. Yesterday, a group about 84 people on 19 cars, that group moved to that area, search area, around 10 o'clock, 10:30. During the search measures, representatives of DNL, they limited the work of the investigation group, and at 12:19 the manager stopped all the works because he received information from representatives of so-called DNR on that there could be active fire from Ukrainian armed forces, and Ukrainian armed forces were not planning any battles in that area. And Ukrainian military men followed the agreement about four-party agreement on ceasefire around in radius of 20 kilometers from that group, and 10 kilometers along the route of experts on their way. Then Terrorists gave a chance to experts to do their job for an hour, but the number of experts were limited. There was a small group, and they were working in the near Petropavlivka. In that area, international experts were not allowed, though that's where there could be material evidence they are searching for. This is from the space, and a picture from the space where a crash site, and that's where the engine was found, and here bodies were found here, and the kick. What was left from the cockpit was found there, and so they did not allow. And at 4 o'clock, a small group, with the permission of DNR, they stopped their work, and the group had to leave from the area of investigation. In addition to that, we have data of with intelligence how the terrorists kidnapped representatives of Red Cross, and here's the conversation, phone conversation. The crime was committed. Hello. Here, do we have an international committee of Red Cross in the city? Is there anything urgent? No. Just there's a car with Red Cross. So what? What kind of a company is that? Hello. That is wild. Your people there, they can move around. This I find quite normal for Red Cross. Fine. They don't have any permission. They don't have it. No. This is Red Cross. This is OSCE. Normal. We kicked out all the rest of them here. I got it. But we have an order. What about the arrest? Who gave you the order? Commander of the group, box at the department of from Khmury. I will call Khmury. What should I do to the Red Cross? We have to handle. Put them into a jail. We have 3 people: one driver, a translator, and one representative of that company. What should we do to them? Should we close them downstairs? They wrote explanations. The first I told them to be there, keep them there. Okay, they will put them into the cellar. Let them keep them there. Yesterday, infiltrators damaged the communication on units of the Krasny Luch and Donetsk region. And without communication, there is Debaltsev, no communication, Debaltsev, Artemivska, Horlivka, Kramatorska, Drushkivka, Konstantinivka, and Slovyansk. And renovation of communication is impossible because of the battles in that area. Local civilians help actively to ATO to find positions of terrorists. During the day, for the hotline of ATO in Mariupol, we received 45 messages about people who participate in terrorist activity, about the positions of terrorists and fire positions. And against, we would like to remind this information and a phone number to connect. Yesterday, not far from Mangush, units of National Guards of Ukraine conducted an operation and arrested a citizen who is suspected that he was financing terrorists. He had a big sum of money in cash and bank cards. And he was arrested, and he gives evidence now. We told you yesterday about the arrest of a group of terrorists in Zhytomyr. Now we have a video. Ready to shoot. How many bullets here? 6. Self-made explosive devices and self-made detonators. The socket is the same, so everything fits and ready. So, thanks to our citizens who are notified and who help our police and to find terrorists and gunmen who are trying to get to the territory of a peaceful life and try to change that. We are very thankful to our people who inform about suspected personalities, and we arrest them. Last night, at the initiative of Russian Federation, there was a special meeting of Security Council, the UN Security Council, at which the majority of participants directly accused Russia in starting a military conflict in the east of Ukraine. Representatives from the US mentioned that Russia should should respect territorial sovereignty of Ukraine and should cease providing ammunition to gunmen. Representatives of Great Britain blame terrorists and Russia that have a direct link to the situation. And at the proposal of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation as to so-called international humanitarian assistance to Donbass, Ukraine Ministry of Foreign believes it's cynical to say that, because Russia continues to destabilize the situation in the east of Ukraine and supports actions of terrorists and bears complete responsibility for humanitarian problems in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Terrorists, among whom there are many citizens of Russian Federation, they consciously destroy infrastructure which is necessary for their life. They housing buildings and attack medical institutions, and they steal costs for emergency. Human Rights Watch also condemned such crimes of pro-Russian militants, and they called to stop that immediately. Forces of ATO, liberating from terrorist villages and Donbass, bring back peace and renovate infrastructure and a normal life. Since June in Ukraine, there is a coordination headquarters and under the guidance of State Service on Emergency, which includes, in addition to Ukrainian agency, representatives of the UN and Red Cross. In close cooperation with them, Ukrainian authorities do everything to provide, to satisfy first humanitarian needs of civilians and IDPs, and there are humanitarian corridors for those who would like to leave the ATO area.
I see a lot of questions. Please take turns in asking them. I know what you're going to ask. I have 3 questions to you. First, the number of dead and wounded over the last day. Over the last day, we lost 18 servicemen and 54 got wounded. Another question is, there's an information that there was an airstrike inflicted on Donetsk, and the Donetsk mayor's office says that there was an airstrike. However, the ATO headquarters reject this information. Both Donetsk and Luhansk, as other cities and towns, are not being hit by Ukrainian Air Force. If we are talking about the noise from the airplane that was heard, yes, this was a plane, but this was a communication plane that provides for the communication between the headquarters of ATO and the units that hold the farthest lines. This is the retransmission plane that is always changing its routes in order to avoid being hit. That's why people could hear its noise. Yesterday we were told that the Yasinuvata railway station is blocked, but the Donetsk railways say that both Yasinuvata and Donetsk stations are working. The matter is that Donetsk Railway is now working under the control of terrorists who are disseminating any information that is useful for them. So this does not correspond to reality. In Transnistria, there's quite a hysterics now, very active, that Ukraine wants to involve Transnistria into war. How can you comment on this? Why there are such hysterical thoughts? All the hysterics and everything that pertains to peace and war is the element of information war that is being very actively waged by the Russian Federation. That's why all these hysterics are just elements of this information war. I ask everybody to calm down and to check the information. Again, I told you about this Brigade 72, but there was a relative from of one of the servicemen. She told me that they are being fired on. I have already checked this information. The units of Brigade 72 that were not on the territory of the Russian Federation and that have not left by the corridor from there, they joined other units that are holding positions on those directions, and they are performing their combat duties together. And yes, this is true, there's firing and shelling there. The matter is that if there's a possibility, then everything necessary is being transported there, and quite a lot. So the guys do have ammunition and water, and the one thing that cannot be guaranteed is the precise schedule of delivery, because there is active combat there. But yes, they get everything necessary either by air or by land, and they are performing their duties. Could you please be more precise about airstrike? Because our journalists have seen the airstrike inflicted on the Kalinin district, which is the central district of Donetsk, and some blocks of flats were hit and damaged, and witnesses say that this comes from the Ukrainian army. What can you tell us? Again, I say that our planes are not bombing cities. So who was this, and what is the proof that it wasn't you? But what are the proofs that this was done by the Ukrainian military? Why shall we try to tell you that we haven't done whatever we hadn't done? The UN has made public the data according to which 1,379 people were killed and more than 4,000 people were wounded since the anti-terrorist operation started. 1,367 people were killed and 400 4.5 thousand were wounded. First of all, we do not have such figures. We do not have figures on the dead and wounded among local population because they are on the territory temporarily controlled by the terrorists. I will bring the update on for the 5 o'clock Britain, but they are not such as you said. What about the Red Cross? Where were some of them detained? What's the reaction of the Red Cross? They talked, the terrorists talked about 3 representatives of Red Cross. We do not have information on how many of them are there at the moment, but we have the fact that they have been captured and they are in captivity now. The reaction of the Committee of the Red Cross, I think, will follow soon, because we are passing on this information to them for them to react. I'm not ready to tell you when the reaction comes. However, all the negotiations take 1 or 2 days. Our journalist Roman Gnatyuk contacted us, and he said that he was detained at the Ukrainian road checkpoint, and he's now in Dnipro-Dzerzhinsk together with other citizens, Sergei Boyko and Sergei Belous. And so he's in the police in Dnipro-Dzerzhinsk. Do you know anything about this? No, I don't know anything about this so far, but I will get to know about this in Dnipro-Dzerzhinsk. There are 3 people detained there by the police. And are they all your staff? No, just Roman Gnatyuk, and the other 2 are just citizens of Ukraine. Thank you for the information. One of these days, People's Deputy Andriy Lysenko made a rather shocking statement. He said that while transporting from the zone of ATO, every 3rd Ukrainian serviceman dies. And he said that allegedly out of 1,333 people who were being evacuated, more than 300 died. What's your comment? Thank you for the question. I have to explain to you. I think that almost 1,000 people were wounded over the last years. I'll give you the precise figure later. Well, let's say around 1,000 wounded. And only 7 people out of this 1,000 have died, have succumbed to their wounds. Well, 12. 7 in hospitals because they had much blood lost, and 5 of servicemen died during the evacuation and transportation from the place where they were wounded to the hospital. So there's no global problem with the transportation of wounded. No, there's no, and we don't even have the problem with treatment of those people. They all get the necessary medical help. And of course, any allegation that every 3rd dies is false. About heavy weaponry of the terrorists, do you have any data about the general number of heavy weaponry, like armored personnel carriers, tanks, and artillery batteries? Also, every day we hear about the destruction of military equipment on the side of terrorists. Do we have any aggregate data? Well, it is still in the hands of terrorists. Every day you say that you have destroyed some heavy weaponry and machinery. No, there is no aggregate data on the destroyed machinery and weaponry on the temporarily controlled by the terrorists. We cannot count this. We know that, for instance, there's an airstrike on the designated targets that have to be outside settlements, which is a rule, and sources from the other side, if there's an opportunity, tell us about what was destroyed and so on. Of course, there's also air reconnaissance that also reports, for instance, like 2 Grad batteries were destroyed as yesterday. And about the airstrike on against the city, if there's proof that and witness accounts that there was a strike, an airstrike, and there's no data that any foreign aircraft entered the Ukrainian territory, the Ukrainian sky, what would you say? Well, Ukrainian Air Force does not strike cities from air. And was there any report from our bodyguards or aviation controls that any plane from foreign territory entered the Ukrainian territory? No, we don't have this information.
If aircraft strikes was not done by Ukrainian Air Forces, that means that we didn't do it. Tell me, please, why do terrorists shoot at 11 areas, 11 districts? What's the goal? Maybe I don't understand something. I don't know. There could be the howitzer, there could be a Grad system, anything. Terrorists use heavy weapons to shoot at Ukrainian armed forces and to shoot in cities. Even from the territory of Russian Federation, they shoot from Grad system to Ukrainian towns and villages, and we provide information on that daily. One more question from. We have information that the majority of Ukraine soldiers who are in Russia, they will return to Ukraine today. Official representative border guards in Rostov region, he informed, but he didn't give the number. Maybe you? I cannot give you the number, but we expect that all of them will come to Ukraine, or will return to Ukraine. There is no reason for them to stay there. How many of them are there still? There were 311 and 195 left, returned back to Ukraine. More questions? You gave the number of that 18 Ukrainian soldiers died. It's from all. These are Ukrainian soldiers who liberated Donbass from terrorists in different units. How many military men are missing at present? I don't have such a number. I will find out. 11 near Shakhtarsk. Nobody knows anything about them. And terrorists don't state that they arrested them. Thank you. There is one more question here.
Why would a communications plane be flying over Donetsk when there's active fighting going on?
Запитання, який сенс літаку який забезпечує зв'язок, який йому сенс літати над Донецьком, в якому зараз відбуваються активні бойові дії?
Справа в тім, що літак.
You see, the plane, that communication plane doesn't have any weapon. The communication plane, they decide where to fly in order to provide communication according to the tasks they have. We don't inform where it would fly because that could be an easy target for terrorists. The editor is calling me about the Brigade 72. There is a They want assistance. They are destroyed near Avrosimka. They don't have ammunition. They don't know what to do. So this is the information we received to our TV channel. I don't know what should be your reaction, or maybe you should inform someone or to pay attention to that. But I wanted to inform you about this. Thank you. You make a report, and you see that there is the main problem is that those grad systems, not only grad systems. What's your advice? There are people who know how to solve this problem. They write letters to the Minister of Defense, etc., but there is no reaction. Who writes? Specialists, professionals who know how to solve this problem. How can we develop some kind of a communication channel between these experts and the Minister of Defense? They bring that information to me, and I will personally deliver that information to the Minister of Defense. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just get this. If the communications plane is such an easy target, what possible reason would they have for flying over Donetsk?
Якщо цей літак зв'язку, якщо він дійсно настільки легка мішень, то для чого йому взагалі летіти над Донецьком?
Літак сам
That plane is choosing the route, and that was at night. So they decide on the plane depending on the situation where to fly. If there is no other question, thank you very much, and we will have you here back at 5 p.m.